Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. I love to get a little out there sometimes with our topics, and today is no exception.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, this one's going to be interesting. A listener sent in this YouTube video, and, well, it's about how vibrations might actually be the foundation of reality.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Right. So the video dives into all sorts of things, scientific studies, ancient wisdom, you name it. But it all comes back to this idea of vibrations and how they might be shaping our experiences. Kind of a mind-blowing concept when you really start to think about it.
It certainly challenges our conventional understanding of the world. Where do we even begin with something like that?
Well, the video starts with something that I thought was super interesting. It points out that humans can only perceive a tiny, tiny fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Right, like less than 1%.
Yeah, like 0.35% or something like that. So basically, there's this whole world of energy and information that our senses just can't pick up on.
It really makes you wonder what we're missing, doesn't it? All those frequencies and vibrations that are just beyond our perception.
It's wild. And then the video gets into this whole thing about Dr. Masaru Emoto and his water crystal experiments. I'm sure you've heard of those.
Yes, I've seen some of his work. He exposed water to different frequencies and emotions, and, well, it seemed to have an effect on the way the ice crystals formed.
Yeah, like different shapes and structures depending on what the water was exposed to. Some of them were beautiful and symmetrical, and others were, well, kind of chaotic.
It's fascinating research, but it's important to acknowledge that not everyone in the scientific community agrees with his findings. Some suggest that there might have been other factors at play.
Yeah, I know there's been debate about his methodology, but even so, I can't help but find it fascinating, especially when you consider that our bodies are what, like 80% water?
Exactly. So it makes you wonder if external vibrations can have an effect on water, could our own thoughts and emotions, which I guess also have their own frequencies, be affecting the water within us?
That is a question, isn't it? Like, what if we're actually influencing our own bodies at a molecular level just by our thoughts and feelings?
Yeah.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is. But that's the beauty of exploring these kinds of topics. It pushes us to expand our thinking and consider new possibilities.
Totally. Speaking of vibrations and their effects, the video also dives into cymatics, which is the study of visible sound.
Yes. I've always found those cymatics videos mesmerizing. The way sound waves can create these intricate geometric patterns in, like sand or water. It's like magic.
It really is.
Yeah.
But it's not magic, is it? There's a scientific explanation behind it.
Of course. It has to do with how sound waves, which are a form of vibration, interact with the medium they're passing through. Certain frequencies will cause the particles to arrange themselves in specific patterns.
So it's all about resonance and how different frequencies create those amazing shapes.
Exactly. It's a beautiful demonstration of how vibrations can literally shape matter.
It makes me think of sacred geometry, this idea that certain geometric patterns and ratios are found throughout the universe. The video mentions this too.
The golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, those kinds of
Yep,
things.
exactly those. You find them in nature, in ancient architecture. It makes you wonder if there's some kind of universal blueprint based on these patterns. Like, are they fundamental to the structure of reality itself?
It's an intriguing possibility, and one that some physicists are actually starting to explore. It's as if modern science is catching up with ancient wisdom.
I love that idea.
Mhm.
Okay, but before we get too far ahead of ourselves, there's one more person we have to talk about. Nikola Tesla. The video quotes him saying something like, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration."
Ah, yes, Tesla. He seemed to have an intuitive grasp of the power of vibrations.
He was way ahead of his time in a lot of ways, wasn't he?
Absolutely. And he didn't just talk about it. He experimented with these concepts. Remember that story about his oscillator that almost brought down an entire building?
Oh yeah, because it matched the building's natural frequency and just amplified the vibrations until the whole thing started shaking.
A powerful demonstration of resonance.
It makes you think about just how much energy is contained within vibrations. But the video takes things even further, suggesting that maybe our minds are tapping into this power too.
Interesting. What do you mean?
Well, it talks about the mind being like a manifesting supercomputer,
Meaning what, exactly?
meaning that our thoughts, emotions, beliefs, everything that goes on in our minds, those things have frequencies too. And maybe those frequencies are somehow interacting with the world around us.
So we're talking about the idea that our thoughts could actually shape our reality.
That's what the video is suggesting. It's a pretty mind-blowing concept and one that's been explored by, various spiritual traditions for centuries. But now even some scientists are starting to look at it from a different perspective.
It's a fascinating intersection of science and spirituality.
It really is. Yeah. And it's just one of the many intriguing ideas that this video explores. But I think we've covered enough ground for now. Let's take a quick break and let all of this sink in a bit.
Good idea. We've been bombarded with some pretty mind-blowing concepts.
We'll be back soon to dive even deeper.
Ready to keep going.
Oh yeah, my brain is definitely still processing everything we talked about. All that stuff about frequencies and vibrations and our mind shaping reality. Wow.
It's a lot to take in, but the video doesn't stop there. It actually shifts gears a little bit and starts talking about something called plant bioacoustics.
Plant bioacoustics. That sounds interesting. What is that exactly?
Well, it's basically the study of how plants perceive and respond to sound and vibrations.
I never really thought about plants being able to hear or sense vibrations.
Right, we tend to think of plants as being pretty passive, just kind of sitting there absorbing nutrients from the soil. But there's a growing body of research suggesting that they're actually much more aware of their surroundings than we give them credit for.
So what kind of evidence is there for this?
Well, the video talks about some really fascinating experiments that have been done in this area. One of the researchers they highlight is Dr. Monica Gagliano. She's done some groundbreaking work with plants.
What kind of work?
In one experiment, she and her team played recordings of running water to pea seedlings, and they found that the roots actually grew towards the sound.
Whoa, so they were actually attracted to the sound of the water.
It seems that way, and it makes sense, right? If you're a plant and you need water to survive, being able to sense where it is would be a pretty big advantage.
It's like they're using sound as a way to navigate towards essential resources. That's incredible.
It is. And there have been other studies that have found that plants can actually emit their own sounds, like clicking sounds.
Wait, plants can make sounds. I've never heard a plant make a sound.
Right. They're not exactly singing or anything like that. It's more like subtle clicks and pops that are too high-pitched for us to hear without special equipment.
And do scientists know why they're making these sounds? Like, what's the purpose?
It's still not entirely clear, but one theory is that it's a form of communication. Maybe they're using these sounds to signal each other, like warning about danger or sharing information about resources.
Wow, so there could be a whole secret world of plant communication going on that we're completely oblivious to. That's amazing and a little bit spooky at the same time.
It's definitely a reminder that we share this planet with a lot of other life forms that we don't fully understand.
Yeah, and if plants are this sensitive to vibrations, it makes you wonder how we might be affecting them with our own vibrations, our thoughts and emotions.
It's an interesting thought, isn't it? Like, what kind of vibrational impact are we having on the plant life around us? Are we helping them thrive or are we stressing them out?
Hmm. Something to think about for sure. But the video keeps going. It starts talking about numbers and letters having their own vibrations.
Ah, yes. That's where we start to get into some more esoteric territory.
Yeah, I've always been kind of fascinated by numerology and the idea that numbers have a deeper meaning. Like each number has its own unique energy or vibration.
It's definitely a concept that's been around for a long time in various spiritual traditions.
But is there any scientific basis for it? Like, do scientists actually believe that numbers have vibrations?
Well, not in the conventional sense. It's not something that you can measure with scientific instruments, but some people believe that there's a more subtle energy associated with numbers that can influence our lives.
So it's more of a symbolic or spiritual interpretation of numbers.
Exactly. But even if you don't take it literally, it can still be a powerful tool for self-reflection and personal growth. Like if you look at the numerology of your birth date or your name, it can reveal certain patterns and tendencies that might be at play in your life.
I can see how that could be insightful. It's all about understanding the underlying energies and how they might be influencing us. It's like all these concepts we've been talking about, vibrations, frequency, sacred geometry, even numerology, they're all interconnected in a way.
I think you're right. They all point to a deeper understanding of the universe as this interconnected web of energy where everything is vibrating and influencing everything else.
It's a pretty amazing concept when you really think about it.
Yeah.
And it makes you realize how much we still don't know about the world around us.
Absolutely. We're just scratching the surface of understanding these mysteries. But it's an exciting time to be alive. There's so much potential for new discoveries and breakthroughs.
It's mind-blowing for sure.
Yeah.
But before we get carried away with all the big picture stuff, let's bring it back to our own lives for a second. How can we actually apply these concepts to our everyday experiences?
That's a great question, and one that we'll explore further in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so where were we? Oh yeah, plant bioacoustics. Honestly, my mind is still blown by that. Never thought I'd see the day when science was backing up the idea that talking to your plants might actually help them grow.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And it really makes you wonder what other secrets nature is hiding. But remember, that video you sent goes even deeper. It brings up this idea of, well, aligning our frequencies with our goals.
Yeah, I remember thinking that was pretty woo-woo at first. Like, okay, how do I align my frequency with getting that promotion or finding a new apartment?
Well, it all comes back to the idea that everything in the universe vibrates at a certain frequency, including us, our thoughts, emotions, even our physical bodies. And the theory is that, like, attracts like.
So if I'm constantly stressed and worried about money, I'm actually attracting more financial problems.
Not necessarily attracting, maybe more like aligning with those types of experiences,
Yeah.
because you're vibrating at a frequency of stress and scarcity. But the good news is we can shift our vibration.
Oh, okay. That makes me feel a little better. But how? How do you actually change your vibration?
It's not about ignoring or suppressing those negative emotions. It's about becoming aware of them and then consciously choosing to focus on something more positive.
Easier said than done, right?
Yeah. It definitely takes practice, but there are lots of techniques that can help. Things like mindfulness, gratitude exercises, positive affirmations, even visualization can be really powerful.
I've heard of some of those. I actually tried a gratitude journal for a while. It was kind of nice to start the day by focusing on the good stuff.
Exactly. Gratitude is a great way to raise your vibration because you're shifting your focus from what you lack to what you already have. It's a simple but powerful shift in perspective.
That's a good point. What about visualization? I've heard people say it's like manifesting, but I'm not sure I really understand how it works.
Well, think of it as a mental rehearsal. You're basically creating a vivid mental picture of what you want to achieve, engaging all your senses. You're seeing it, feeling it, really experiencing it in your mind.
Ah, okay, I'm getting it. So if you're really clear about what you want, and you can visualize it happening, you're more likely to attract those experiences.
Something like that, yeah. The idea is that you're sending out a strong vibrational signal that aligns with your desired outcome. And when you combine that with positive emotions and a belief in your ability to make it happen, well, that's when things can really start to
It's
shift.
almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah,
If you believe you can achieve something and you're taking action towards it, you're much more likely to succeed.
exactly. It's not just about sitting around and wishing for things to happen. It's about aligning your thoughts, beliefs, and actions with your desires. And that's where understanding this whole concept of vibrations can be really helpful.
Totally. So, okay, big picture time. What's the, ultimate takeaway from all this?
Hmm. Well, I think the most important thing is to remember that we have more power than we realize. We're not just victims of circumstance. We're active participants in creating our own realities. And that's pretty empowering when you think about it.
It is, but it's also a big responsibility. If our thoughts and emotions really do have this power to shape our reality, then what kind of world are we creating with our collective vibrational energy?
Whoa, that is a big question. And it's one that I think we all need to be asking ourselves.
Yeah.
Because if we want to live in a world that's filled with peace, love, and abundance, well, we need to start by cultivating those frequencies within ourselves.
Yeah, and maybe that starts with something as simple as taking a few minutes each day to practice gratitude or visualize our dreams.
Exactly. Little by little, step by step, it all makes a difference.
Wow. Well, this has been quite the deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground today, and I know it's a lot to process, but hopefully it sparked some curiosity and maybe even inspired some new ways of thinking about the world around us.
It's been my pleasure joining you for this fascinating discussion. Always happy to explore the intersection of science and spirituality.
Me too. And to our listeners, thanks for coming along for the ride. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this one, so feel free to reach out and let us know what you think. Until next time, keep those vibrations high.